Welcome to the show, everybody. So great to have you back with us again this week. Jeff's back.
I am.
Sasha's here. How are you? Good to see you both.
Yeah.
See how I did that? Awesome. Hey, this week, thanks. This week we are going to be turning an ODROID-N2. See this little SBC down here? It's very small. It's very powerful, incidentally, but it doesn't generate a lot of heat, doesn't make any noise, and it doesn't use a lot of electricity. But we're going to be turning it into a full-fledged lamp stack, aka a web server to host our websites.
Good times.
Stick around. You're going to find out how we can do that.
This is Category 5 Technology TV.
Our live recordings are trusted only to solid-state drives by Kingston Technology. Revive your computer with improved performance and reliability over traditional drives with Kingston SSDs.
Category 5 TV streams live with Telestream Wirecast and Nimble Streamer. Tune in every week on Roku, Kodi, Plex, and other HLS video players. For local showtimes, visit category5.tv.
Category5.tv is a member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. cat5.tv/TPN and the International Association of Internet Broadcasters. cat5.tv/IAIB.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Nice to have you here for episode number 613.
Good times.
613 weeks of putting up with the bald nerd.
Wow.
So thanks.
I don't know if you can call it putting up with.
Just
more like indulging.
thank you for that. Appreciate that, world. Appreciate that very, very much.
That would be a fun, binge watching marathon event. Because I know some of our viewers actually do
episodes?
Watch right from the beginning and go right on through to current.
Let's watch the evolution of cameras.
I feel like that takes Netflix and chill to a whole new level. Because that's 2 months worth?
If you didn't stop.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We do have long winters here, so.
There you go. Your Canadian winter can be spent watching Category 5 TV.
Right.
The archives.
I don't believe there was ever a time in the history of the show, in the full 12, almost 13 years, when I had a full head of hair. Just didn't happen.
No, but remember that one time I saw a clip of you and you had some
laughed.
hair? I was not expecting that. I
just
pictured
on the
you
sides.
been bald since birth. I just didn't know you as somebody with hair.
Thanks
I was going to say, I think even your wedding photos, there was not as
some
much
thinning going on.
Yeah.
I do react the same way when I see pictures of Dave, who is bald.
Mm-hmm.
He used to have very long hair. And
oh, yes.
It's strange. It's not that he looks strange, but it's I only know you and him as bald, right? And then it's boxed in.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine Mr. Clean, if they rebranded and gave him, Fabio's hair?
a man bun.
Right, exactly.
It just wouldn't. It just would feel weird.
That's funny.
Man.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. The first time ever
You
that
ready for
Cat 5 has aired after the NBA championships were won by a Canadian team.
Oh,
I almost wore
This episode is history in the making.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so.
That is
And in case
true.
anybody
Because
has no
it's
clue what we're
never
talking
happened.
about, the inventors of the basketball have finally won at the basketball.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's right.
Canada.
We the North. Everybody is going, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
The Raptors.
Everybody's
they won.
what does that have to do with tech? I'll tell you what it has to do with tech. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
I will.
But it's a little bit of Canadian pride. This is a
That's true.
Canadian show,
Absolutely.
Canadian pride.
Absolutely.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
All right. Well, so moving on with the tech.
Yeah.
Have you tried installing a Windows Update as of late? They've done it once again.
Okay.
Microsoft has released an update that bricks a lot of systems. Now, this one is unique, so listen up if you use data encryption on your hard drive. Products like Deslock Plus, ESET Endpoint Encryption, if you use those to encrypt your data, the 1903 update from Microsoft will actually brick your system.
That's not good.
Yeah. So make sure you check if you use encryption technology to protect your data on your Windows 10 machine. Make sure you check with your vendors before you go and opt in for that update. And you might even consider in that case, if you use those kinds of products, maybe block that update until vendors figure out what's going on. Now, this is new news, and so they're still trying to get to the bottom of, maybe by the time you watch this, they will have patched the patch or something like that. But as it is, they're still looking into what's actually happening.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so strange that they keep doing this.
I have a theory about what's
Microsoft
happening.
trying rolling updates.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I have a theory about what's happening, and it's called people continue to install Windows.
Oh, yeah. Good theory.
Yeah, that's the problem. So just stop. Go with Linux.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of installing Windows.
You could use Luke's to do the encryption.
I could, yes. I happened to install Windows XP on a computer earlier this week. Simply because, why?
You experimenting with danger?
Well, it was not connected to the network in any way, but simply because I was going through old disks,
Yeah.
and I found my Windows XP. I was like, I have to install this just because.
For fun?
Yeah. And as soon as I did, I'm like, going to Linux. And it was a very satisfying moment.
You actually sat there and pressed the...
I did.
It's a onerous installation process on XP,
Shockingly,
too.
it was like 10 minutes because the computer was
just
screaming
'cause it's so much
fast.
faster these
Yeah.
days.
So it's like, it's going to take half an
Brilliant.
hour. Oh, you're done. I was like, okay, good times.
Shows what you know.
That's right.
Before we jump into the show today, I want to remind you to make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, and don't forget to click the bell. That is going to notify you anytime we post brand new shiny videos or when we go live. This week we are looking at the ODROID-N2, but with a little bit of a twist, because we are looking at it and thinking, what would this be perfect for? And these days, ARM is absolutely taking over the server environment. And what we're starting to see is a transition from big, heavy, high-powered, electrical usage servers that generate a lot of noise, generate a lot of heat in the server room, and a migration to these lightweight ARM servers. And the evolution of that is really the driving factor is the single board computer.
Right.
It started with Raspberry Pi and has been blowing up with companies like Friendly Elec and Hard Kernel, their Odroid products, and all the, like Pine 64 have created some incredible open source boards. And a lot of the stuff is open and available. So there are so many different ones available. The ODROID-N2 is one of the newer ones from Hard Kernel, and I'm going to get in here so that you can just get a bit of a closer look. So this is what it looks like, and you'll see I literally have only 2 cables plugged into it. I've got gigabit Ethernet and power, and beyond that, nothing is connected. I have a micro SD card plugged in, and you can see that this thing is just flashing away, doing its thing, and I'm holding it. It's making no noise. It's making no heat. And that, ladies and gentlemen, today is going to become a web server.
Oh, cool.
So everything that we're about to learn transcends the ODROID-N2. So whether you want to do this on an actual physical server, if you want to do this on a different single board computer, because that's a lot of fun. And this is pretty impressive to be able to run your websites off of, off of a little single board computer like this. There are some advantages to the N2. First of all, the SoC, which we'll say is the CPU, okay? So the system on chip is on the underside of the board. You notice there is no CPU SoC on the visible side. It's on the underside, and then we've got this massive heat sink, which is absorbing and diffusing all of that heat that would be generated under normal use case. So it's a lot cooler than a lot of single board computers, and it doesn't throttle because of that.
Right.
So it runs really, really well. So let's get a quick overview of what this thing is. Of course, it's excellent value for the money. I mean, they start at about $65 on Ameridroid.com. You can use our coupon code CAT5TV supporter. That will bump another $1 off. Plus, you'll actually be supporting the show at the same time. The cheapest model comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM inbuilt. For an additional $15, that's all it takes. You can actually double that to 4 gigs.
Oh.
So it's a single board computer with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Well, what do you do for storage? As you see, I'm using a micro SD card, so I could stick like 128 gig micro SD in there if I wanted to. It's UHSI, and it also has eMMC. So you'll see on the board here, I have a port specifically for an eMMC card. So I can plug it in there, or I can use a micro SD, or I can use both and just choose which one I want to boot from. So that gives us 2 options for storage. Why would I go with eMMC? Any guesses?
No.
Versus SD.
Oh.
Faster?
Faster, yes. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is reliable.
Right.
It's much more reliable for something like this. Now, I'm using an SD card just for the sake of the demonstration. It's quick and dirty,
Right.
and I can get up and going really, really fast. If you're going to be using this as a web server that's going to be on 24/7 with a lot of reads and writes happening on the disk, you might consider switching to eMMC. It's going to last longer. But nice thing again is you can back up the whole card just using like create an image of that card using DDE or your favorite tool, Win32 Disk Imager or something like that, and make a complete duplicate of that card so that you can, if it crashes, you can reflash it. Brilliant. Cool. It also has 4, count 1, 2, 3, 4 USB 3 full-sized ports. So if you'd like, you can plug in external storage, which I would say if you're going to be doing something, with where you've got a lot of data, you could do like a RAID 1 enclosure, something with 2 drives in it, so that you've got a fair bit of storage, but also there's some redundancy there to remove the file system kind of from the SD or eMMC, move it onto USB 3, and you've got a good, fast connection to be able to serve up those files to your website visitors. Okay, the SoC I mentioned on the bottom side is an Amlogic S922X, which gives that 4 Cortex A73 cores running at 1.8 gigahertz, and then we've got 2 Cortex A53 cores running at 1.9 gigahertz. So total of 6 cores with an average of 1.85 gigahertz. Right? So it's good performance out of this little guy, and we'll see that in practice as well. I mentioned the Ethernet is gigabit. It is true gigabit Ethernet. So whereas a Raspberry Pi has 10 over 100, I think they brought out a gigabit version, but it's not actually gigabit. It's like 300 meg per second or something like that. Because it shares with the USB bus, and this is a dedicated...
This is true.
Yeah, true gigabit Ethernet. It has an onboard real-time clock, and I can't emphasize that enough when it comes to the fact that we're going to be using this as a server, because that is really, really important for our server. And a Raspberry Pi doesn't have that. Nothing against the Raspberry Pi. That's not my point or my intention. I'm just saying, from single board to single board computer, there are differences, and it's important to understand what we need in order to make it work the way that we want it to work. Right. Now, for our purposes as a server, I want to use the real-time clock. That's going to keep time. Now, it's got a battery jack here for the RTC battery, and you can just pick these up. Same place that you buy the board, and you can buy the case as well, like an extra $4 to get a little case enclosure for it. But the real-time clock battery just looks like this, and it's just a button cell battery with a wire coming out of it. And even with the power on, I'm just going to plug that right into the RTC port for the battery. Now that's done. So now it has battery backup for the real-time clock. So if power ever went out for an extended time, my server's not going to lose time. And it's also going to keep on top of time, so we're not going to have to worry about losing time.
Right.
That's really important for my server.
Very important.
Yeah. Another server enhancement is what comes from ARM v8, which is the hardware SSL. So OpenSSL is significantly faster. So that's like a hardware, the crypto extensions that are part of the ARM v8. With that, performance on OpenSSL, which is like encryption for our websites, encryptions for our data, about 5 times, almost 5 times as fast as the already impressive ODROID-N2. So
not bad.
significant performance gain there. Now, I want to, you know that it's already powered up. I've got everything up and going, but I haven't installed anything. So the only thing that I've done is I've imaged Bald Nerd's Debian Buster SBC base image.
Okay.
You can get that at my blog, baldnerd.com. What the base image is it's just Debian Buster. So Debian 10, vanilla, out of the box. It's ready to go. You just image it and boot it up. So let's actually jump over to, I'm going to jump over to my computer, and first I'm going to get a terminal window up. There we go. I have SSH'd into this, and with the Bald Nerd base image, it's simply Bald Nerd is the username, Bald Nerd is the password. Keep it simple, right? And if you ever forget your password, just look right here. And then you'll know exactly what your password is. Okay, so that's the base image. Comes that way. We will be learning on a future episode how to change the username and password, but for now, this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to become root by typing sudo su. And again, my password, Bald Nerd. And here I am on Debian Buster. And running the 4.9.180 kernel. And so the first thing I need to do, because the base image comes with absolutely nothing, it's just nice and clean, first thing I want to do is df-h. And I just want to make sure that my micro SD or eMMC card has resized. I can see that it is showing the full size of 14 gigs. It's truly a 16 gig card. I'm currently using 1.1 gigs. I've got 13 gigs free. Now, if that said, you know, that the usage was 70 or 80%, then that means that the resize operation failed.
Right.
So you'll need to correct that. But so that's important that you check that first, because if we start installing things and there's not enough space, you're going to run out of space, and then you're going to have to start all over again, because you're probably going to corrupt the file system. So I know I've got 13 gigs free, and I'm good to go. So git clone github.com/cat5tv/cat5tv-sbc test. This we have seen on the show before, and this repository has a couple of great tools for us. First of all, some benchmarking things, obviously. I've added a MySQL benchmark, and of course the system benchmark, which gives us giggle scores, is there as well. But what I'm interested in is a folder called installers. So do you notice where I am? Because I cloned in my home folder. So /home/baldnerd/cat5tv-sbc test/installers. And of course, the way that I get there is from my home folder. So if I do cd/home/baldnerd, for example, I can just type cd C space C, and then I hit tab, and that's a quick hot link. And then I can hit tab again, and it'll give me a list of files. I can type install or in, and then hit tab, and it'll take me to installers. Okay. So now I have a little file in there called lamp.sh, and this is a really quick way to set up our LAMP stack. So Linux, Apache, MySQL or MariaDB, and PHP.
Right.
We're going, of course, this is Debian Buster, so we're doing PHP 7.3. Keep it real, my friends. And let's take a quick look at this, just for those who are curious as to what it's actually doing. So it's going to update apt. It's going to install Apache 2, PHP 7.3, PHP 7.3-CLI. That's our command line interface for it. Some common files, curl, a handful of packages, plugins that are helpful, like GD, the imaging library, JSON support, MB string, MySQL connectivity for PHP, opcache. Yeah, so just a handful of things that are going to be helpful for this setup, and XML, SQLite, that kind of stuff. And then we've got the Apache library, the module for PHP 7.3, which we're going to activate later, and everything else, Sodium, encryption library, all that kind of stuff. And then we see MariaDB-server, that's our MySQL server, and mod security is the final thing, just to add some additional security. You can change these if you want, you can modify it, just showing you how it works. Then it's going to create a root password for MySQL, because these days MariaDB-server does not automatically prompt during installation for a root password, so we want to run that script. And then enabling PHP 7.3, first disabling npm event, and then enabling PHP 7.3 and restarting Apache, and then that's it. It's done. All right, so let's actually do it. Let's just run /lamp.sh and let her go. So we know that right now it's actually updating apt, but I use that as a way to pause the screen, and it's installing all that junk for us.
Nice.
Beautiful. So what it's doing is it's getting all that stuff from the internet. I didn't have to figure anything out. I'm just running the installer, which you saw there is really just an apt script just to simplify things, so I don't have to walk you through all the different packages that you're going to need. Just keeps it simple.
Saves us time.
Yeah, saves us time. So when we come back, this will be finished after the break, and we'll be able to take a look and see what we're able to do with our new Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP server. Stick around. All right, before the break, we started setting up an ODROID-N2 as what we call a lamp stack in the industry, but basically a web server. It's going to run our websites on this little tiny single board computer that we can stick anywhere. And it just needs 2 cables, and then we're done.
That's cool.
Now, one thing I forgot to cover that I really need to mention as we were talking about the real-time clock, one thing that I absolutely also need to check, so along with df-h, I need to also type date. Okay? Make sure your single board computer, because mine has been plugged in before, and as you know, it has a real-time clock.
Right.
So it keeps the time. Make sure you type date first, because some of the installer script or even the Git clone may fail, saying something about SSL certificates failing and things like that. That means your clock time is set incorrectly. There's also a tool on my blog for that at baldnerd.com, and just do a search for nerdgasms, just like it sounds, and you'll see set the Linux time and date. And that's an important tool to be able to help you to do that as well. So that's really a key thing, because all of this would fail if your clock was wrong.
Don't want that.
Okay, yeah. So this is finished installing our lamp stack, and as I mentioned when we looked over the script, now it's prompting me to set up a root password. So I want to read this because it's all very important, and we tend to skim. Running all parts of the script is recommended for MariaDB servers in production use. Please read each step carefully. In order to log into MariaDB, to secure it, we'll need the current password for the root user. There isn't one, so it's just enter. If you've just installed MariaDB and you haven't set the root password yet, the password will be blank, so you just push enter here. That's what it says. That is redundant to what I just said. Maybe I should just read. Yeah. So enter. Okay. Do I want to set the root password? Setting the root password ensures that nobody can log in to MariaDB root user without the proper authorization. Well, yes, I absolutely want that. New password. Setting it. There we go. Okay. This is important too. By default, a MariaDB installation has an anonymous user. Ooh. That sounds like bad news for a production server, right? So this anonymous user comes pre-installed. So somebody can log in without having a user account created for them. This is intended only for testing and to make the installation go a bit smoother. So you should remove them before moving into a production environment. Remove the anonymous accounts? Yes.
Yes.
All right, done. Success. Normally, root users should not be allowed to connect from outside of your local host, okay? So this ensures that someone cannot guess at the root password from the network. What the heck does that mean? Okay, so if I am standing in the same network and I'm SSH'd into that server, I can connect to MySQL as root via localhost.
Right.
Okay. If, however, I'm somebody on in somewhere else in the world connecting to my server from outside of my network and trying to connect to it by the host name, like whatever.com, or the IP address, it's going to say no root access is allowed. So it's just a little bit of
That's good.
Yeah, it just solidifies things. So disallow.
You can't have remote tech support if something goes wrong, though.
No, because you can still SSH into it and then access it through localhost.
Oh, okay.
But it's almost like you have to have your SSH access, whether
Yes.
it be strong password encryption. I suggest even having that blocked off in the firewall by default. We are going to look at hardening this server in 2 weeks' time, possibly next week if there is time on next week's show. Okay. We are going to look at adding a firewall. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well as LFD, login failure daemon, which will monitor for things like incorrect passwords on SSH and block IP addresses based on that. So, cool. But that is a bit of a digression. Okay, so do we want to disallow root login remotely? Yes, we only want localhost to be able to log in as root. By default, MariaDB also comes with a database called test that anyone can access. This is also intended only for testing and should be removed before moving it into production. Do we want to? Yes. Success. Reloading the privileges table will ensure that all the changes made so far will take effect immediately. Yes. Done.
Now, at any point, if you hit no, can you go back and amend these?
Theoretically, yes. The script is built for that. However, I have experienced difficulty with that. Okay. So I would suggest that you just say yes.
Yeah, take your time and
read it through. That would be the advisable course of action. But I would say yes to every question that it asks because these are very crucial security issues.
And they're not going to try and trick you. They are educating you on why you're saying yes.
And now, just like my Debian install, which is insecure because it's using the default username and password at this point, but it is vanilla. So it's clean. There's no test databases. There's no test users. There is only a root user, and I am the only one who knows that password. And so it is much more hardened than it was out of the box. So that's ready for us. So now if I do systemctl, you don't have to do this. I just want to do this for the sake of the demonstration. Status MariaDB. I can see that it's active running. Okay? See that in green? Hit Q. Systemctl status Apache 2. Active and running. And our script will have already pre-configured and set up PHP 7.3 as operational. So I'm going to go into cd/var/www. Now, keep in mind, this folder is, well, it looks like HTML is owned by root. So if I go into HTML, I have to be root in order to manipulate this. But let's zoom out a little bit here. I'm going to bring up my browser, and we're actually going to connect to that computer. So 10.0.0.123. There it is, my default Apache Debian page. So that is the index.html file. So back at my SSH, if I modify that index.html in var www.html, we know exactly what's going to happen there, right? I'm going to go down to the body. And here, let's just for the sake of showing you, Robbie's test page. And then write that out. And now over here, refresh.
Oh,
see?
Look at that.
That's the index.html file. So we also want to know that our PHP is working. So let's actually make a PHP file, touch test.php. Now if I edit that file and open a PHP brace there, and we'll type PHP info. Okay, and write that out. Now, back at my browser, if all went well with our installation script, which was not onerous by any stretch, test.php. PHP is running version 7.3.4-2. And we can see it's running on Linux Debian 4.9.180, just as we saw earlier on the show. So now this thing is a real, legit web server. I can start uploading my website to it. I can start serving up websites from it. All I need to do is just open up port 80 if I want to give access to non-SSL encrypted content, or 443 if I want to start securing things, which we'll need to set up as well, probably with Let's Encrypt or something like that. But it's entirely operational, and this thing runs so well.
Cool.
Yeah.
This is easy.
You can host WordPress on it.
Yeah.
You can host just your own custom files on it. You can even, if you wanted to, you could just upload, let's say I made a directory, make dir test. And in that directory, I touch a file. Well, let's nano a file, test.txt, and hello, right? So there's just a text file in a folder called test. So if I go into that folder, I can see that this is a directory tree containing the file test.txt. So that could be like family photos that I want to share with my family. It could be anything at all that I put in here that someone else can download. So now they see the directory tree because there's no index.php or index.html. And if I click on that file, it has the file. So it says hello. I know it's getting cut off a little bit on the screen, but there you go.
So you can almost make your own kind of Dropbox a little bit.
Yeah, you'd be putting it on that system, and anyone who has the IP address to get to it, whether it be on your LAN or through the WAN, if you've got that set up in your firewall, they'll be able to access it. It is a web server.
That's cool.
In a single board computer with a real-time clock.
Super cool.
And it's only as low as $65. Let's get our head around that for a second. $65. If you want the 2 gig model.
Incredible.
$80 if you want the 4 gig.
Yeah, thereabouts.
That's amazing.
It's astonishing. Like I come from a universe of you need a $4,000 server. Like back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I was learning all this stuff, it was big, it was heavy, it was loud. If you plugged it in, your hydro bill is going up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like this is what I come from, and now it's like that.
Wowzers.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Now, is there a load capacity for something like this?
Oh, sure.
So,
I don't know that I'd ever hit it.
well, probably not. But I mean, say you created some amazing blog and you had 1 million
yeah.
views a day. Would it crash it?
No, I doubt it. Well, I mean, you could experiment with that. My concern, if I got that popular on my hosted solution on here, would be the reads and writes happening on the disk.
Right.
Right? Because it's an eMMC card. I don't want to have a lot of reads and writes happening. But if that was ever the case, Jeff, I would move like /var/log to, I could put it on an iSCSI, I could put it on an external device, something like that, something that is not reading and writing to that card all the time, and then the card can just be the operating system and the serving up of the software.
Very cool.
Right? So, benchmark-wise, I am going to be providing some really awesome benchmarks for this board with this particular setup as a LAMP server in the July issue of Odroid magazine. So make sure you grab a copy of that issue, and you'll be able to see my MySQL benchmarks. I create over 1 million entries within MySQL and benchmark them, and also benchmarking the system itself. So we'll see how it performs, but it runs really, really well. I'm happy with it. Absolutely.
Have you Giggle scored it yet?
I have. It is. If we look at gigglescore.com, so jumping over there, we can see that the ODROID-N2 is in second place for Bob rank, which is the best of both worlds. The Giggle score, it puts it in fourth place, and the LZMA rank, which is the multi-threaded benchmark, it's in first place from all the boards that we currently benchmark, which is 42 boards.
That's amazing.
So it does come second on the Bob rank to the Odroid XU4, and that is essentially because the Odroid XU4 is second place for LZMA, the benchmark itself, performance. The Giggle score is in third place for the XU4.
Right.
Versus the N2 at 4 gigabytes. The Giggle score is a little bit higher because it is... in context, you're paying a little bit more for the performance, but you're getting a lot more as well.
Right.
Right? So we do need to weigh that in context, but it is currently at this time in second place on gigglescore.com.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, so check them out. Go to Ameridroid.com. Please support those who support us. And at Ameridroid.com, find yourself the board that's right for you. If you have questions, I mean, it's a really tough time to figure out which SBC am I going to buy. So I want to give you use cases that are potentially useful, right? So this one is going to be a really nice lamp stack for sure. send in your questions. If you're not too sure, which one should I buy? Which one is right for my use case? It really comes down to, as we're looking at gigglescore.com, realizing, okay, well, these are the ones that are like top 5, best value for the money. Odroid XU4, Odroid-N2, which we're looking at today, the Raspberry Pi 3 Model A+, the Nano Pi M4, and the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B+. So keeping in mind, okay, well, Raspberry Pi is on there twice. Well, they're the best value for the money in the top 5, but they do not provide nearly the performance that you're getting from this. So it's like weighing, you need to weigh all the factors and say, okay, well, we need really good performance because, as you say, if your blog gets popular, it needs to still continue running really, really well and not be giving errors, right? Serving up 500 errors on Apache and things like that. So that's why we need something a little more powerful, and I would probably, if you expect to get big or serve up a lot of stuff, I would go with the 4 gig model just by default. And you're still sub $100 with the accessories. So, that's fantastic.
It's a good deal.
Super
good
cool.
deal.
Yeah, send us an email live at category5.tv if you are curious. And I mentioned AmeroDroid.com. Don't forget, we have a coupon code CAT5TV supporter, which will give you a small discount, but also will lend some support to Category 5 TV as well. So we appreciate you using that. All right, we need to head over to the newsroom if you're ready for us.
I sure am.
Excellent.
Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. Uber has said Australia will become the first international market for its flying taxi service, Uber Air. The retro-inspired Linux-powered Atari VCS gaming console is finally inching towards general release in America. The United States Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, has gone public with a warning to Microsoft Windows users regarding a critical security vulnerability. And Facebook has finally revealed the details of its cryptocurrency, Libra, which will let you buy things or send money to people with nearly zero fees. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. Uber has said Australia will become the first international market for its flying taxi service, Uber Air. The firm has selected Melbourne as the 3rd pilot city for its air taxi program, joining Dallas and Los Angeles. Test flights are due to start from 2020, with the aim of launching commercial operations from 2023. Several companies are developing flying taxis as a future mode of transportation. Uber said increased air mobility would help ease traffic congestion in cities. Eric Allison, global head of the firm's aviation division, Uber Elevate, says, quote, as major cities grow, the heavy reliance on private car ownership will not be sustainable. He goes on to say Uber Air holds enormous potential to help reduce road congestion, end quote. He said the 19-kilometer journey from Melbourne's central business district to the airport would take some 10 minutes with Uber Air, down from up to an hour by car. Uber is working with NASA and the U.S. Army on its flying taxis and has 2 aircraft manufacturers, Embraer and Pipistrel Aircraft, also on board. Last year, the company said it would open a laboratory in Paris to develop flying taxis. Uber is not the only company experimenting with flying taxis, reminiscent of the mode of transportation in the American cartoon The Jetsons. Tech firms are competing to develop the first viable passenger-carrying sky taxis, while Airbus and a range of startups have also been testing self-flying taxis. Dubai conducted its first test of a drone-based taxi service in 2017. Separately, a firm funded by Google founder Larry Page has unveiled an electric self-flying air taxi that can travel up to 180 kilometers an hour or 110 miles per hour.
Nice. This is the future, folks.
That's it. We will cut down on road construction costs.
You figure if they can, I mean, with autonomous vehicles, they can use LiDAR, right, to avoid collisions and make them kind of work like following tracks, if you will, not literal tracks, but following the paths that are laid out. Yeah, and avoiding obstacles. And so move that to the air, and it's like if they just it's like sci-fi. If they get up to speed and they just merge in, and the computer takes care of the rest and makes sure everybody's cool. No bad drivers anymore, because if it's autonomous.
I know that this is the way of the future. But I feel like to put a date on it of, by 2023.
How real is that?
Well, yeah, like, we have a hard time merging lanes onto the highway. Imagine you're driving and it's like, oh, look, car comes in and merges in front of you.
Sounds awesome.
Like, that's going to freak people out. I feel like if you're going to go down that road to say we're going to have air taxi, either A, it has to be not available for driving on a regular road, because if
what if
somebody
it could double? Nah, I couldn't. Nah.
Because if somebody just takes off or lands, like, you're going to throw drivers out of...
I don't think
it's going to
they
be
can
an
do that.
air slash like road.
Yeah, they'd have to
vehicle.
have
It'll
like
just be
landing
straight
zones,
air.
right?
And it'll be probably from pad to pad. Yeah.
Yeah, I
would
would
think.
expect so.
And I would also think that it wouldn't be so high as to be called like an actual aircraft. Like, it's not going to be where if you fall, you get super damaged.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I know
Right, I think-
in some cities...
Although it's traveling 180 kilometers an hour.
Well, right,
Right.
but I mean, like, you've got some cities where I think it's, is it 100 meters you're not allowed to fly lower than for aviation rules? Like,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not sure
I
of
think
the
for
regulations, but-
where Cat 5 is filmed, I think it's 100
Okay.
meters, maybe. Because then you'll see planes fly over and it's like, wow, they seem low, but they're quite far.
Right.
I mean, if
Yeah,
you allow for, say, an Uber Air that's under that threshold so that it doesn't get picked up by air traffic control and all that kind of stuff, like, what does that mean? I mean, now you're talking like maybe 25 feet above the car. Like, you run into some real issues, especially if
know.
it's a sharp turn. Like,
Nah, I would think it's as the bird flies, Jeff. It's going to have to be.
Yes.
Like we take off, and it's going to be part of the air traffic control is going to know about them. They're not hiding
that's-
from
I
it.
think that's going to freak them right out. Like,
No.
Like, you've
Because
got,
they've
like,
got air
imagine
lanes.
Pearson
They've got
Airport
lanes
Toronto.
in the air.
I know, but imagine Pearson Airport in Toronto. You've got all these planes coming in. You're trying to control it all. Suddenly, you've got these little blips going, pss, 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 just flying all over the place. Like, it's going to go
No,
nuts.
because these days it's all GPS, Jeff.
It's still going to go
It's
nuts.
not
I
all.
think
It's
it's
not
gonna
like
be
radar.
amazing.
They're not like. Ding, ding, ding.
No, but
sonar.
I think...
He's picturing sonar.
No, I'm not picturing sonar, but I think from a broader society impact, I think there's a lot more infrastructure and social awareness that needs to be brought in before
Yeah,
you can
oh,
just
yeah.
say, oh, this is a service we're going to provide. I think society is not quite ready to integrate to that kind of service yet.
I feel like the warranty on my car like ends in 2023. I can just like start taking an Uber taxi,
Sure.
Uber Air taxi, and zip around. Believe me, like in any city where there's construction.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I don't- I don't doubt that
want to be
Yeah, that's no
air.
longer an issue.
But I
That's
just
no
don't
longer an
think we're
issue.
ready for it.
Yeah.
Barrie, Ontario, Canada, where every road is under construction right now.
Right, but think of
there's
like
only one left open.
Like, I'm a commuter. I go to Toronto all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time, and so I'll sit in traffic for an hour and a half.
well, don't
Like,
anymore.
No, I hear you, but imagine all the people that are going to go, yeah, you need to get this in Toronto because and suddenly you've got,
Yeah.
all these vehicles zipping everywhere.
Sure.
Like, you're going to have problems. I don't think as a
why-
society we're ready yet. The infrastructure is too great to have like a 2023
I would put
rollout.
money on they're going to be autonomous because I don't think people
It's
are
gotta
ready
be.
for it,
No.
but I think the technology is ready for
I
it.
don't know.
Robot.
I don't
can't
think we're
trust
ready
people
for it
to
yet as
fly
a
those.
society. I think we need to have more infrastructure.
Of course. But do keep in mind, so as we think of infrastructure, it's a very limited test base.
Right.
A few cities, basically. So they're building the infrastructure in as they create the pilot projects.
Right.
So presumably that's part of the process. It's not just put a whole bunch of things in the air. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to have to build infrastructure that can track them and help the autonomous vehicle to be able to manipulate the roads, basically, the air roads.
I
So-
will say one thing. I am shocked that there isn't a test city in a colder climate.
If they're
why didn't
battery
we
operated,
become a
maybe maybe that's on purpose.
Yeah, why didn't we become a test city? Because we have really good cold winters,
Well,
and we would like to test.
But look at Australia. I mean, they've got the desert in the middle where it's crazy hot. Nothing can live there, essentially. It's so
Right.
nuts. But then you go to
Sorry
the
if
southern,
you live there.
But then you go to the southern fringe, and they do get snow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, Australia is pretty broad as
that's-
far as weather goes.
so
But see,
maybe-
for a service like this, and I know we have to go to the next news story, I could see, instead of jumping city to city around the coast of Australia, I could see them going, hey, we don't have, a lot of straightforward roads that go through the middle of the, whatever the desert in Australia is called. So let's just hop to the northern end and then down to the bottom end. I could totally see that working because it's not as population dense with buildings and people.
Right.
Just
What are your
dingoes.
thoughts?
Dingoes.
What are your thoughts?
Big termite.
I think it's exciting.
I like it. The retro-inspired Linux-powered Atari VCS gaming console is finally inching towards general release in America. The system is on general pre-order from Atari VCS web store as well as retail partners GameStop and Walmart. But you won't get your console until March. Those retro gaming fans who backed the Atari VCS crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo won't have to wait quite as long, as the console is expected to ship to backers in December. Unlike similar retro consoles from Nintendo, Sega, and Sony, the Atari VCS is a living console that's not limited to the games it ships with. It lets you play classic Atari games, but it also lets you buy and play newer titles. Online video streaming from sites like Netflix will also be available on the machine. This adds some versatility, making the machine more of a media and entertainment hub than simply a retro-themed console. The base Atari VCS 400 features an AMD processor, embedded Vega graphics, 32 gigabyte eMMC, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. It costs a cool $249 with controllers sold separately. The Atari VCS 800 offers the same specs as the base model, but with double the RAM at 8 gigabytes. It sells for $279. Again, controllers are sold separately. Finally, there's an all-inclusive bundle featuring the Atari VCS 800 and both modern and retro VCS controllers. This costs $389. Just to spice things up, there will be exclusive models to hunt down. A gold version sold at Walmart, a wood-fronted model exclusive to the Atari web store, and a pure black model with red accents sold at GameStop. The VCS also lets owners boot and/or install other Linux distros like Ubuntu and operating systems from a USB drive, which is handy if you get bored with what comes in the box and want to run Steam. So far, there's no word on any international release.
That's awesome. I love retro gaming.
Yay!
Who's buying one?
Oh, probably me.
Yeah.
Not for that price point.
I think that's pretty good, Jeff.
I
Come
think
on
it's
now.
great.
Don't be a hater.
What?
Like retro gaming?
I love retro gaming, but there's cheaper options out there than $389.
Oh, yeah.
Like
You jumped automatically to the most expensive one, which I also would
okay, fine,
actually do.
$269 or $79, whatever
Yeah.
it was. But still, like, I mean, you can go out and buy a PS4 for $400.
But
That's not retro,
you
Jeff.
probably already have a
understand that.
PS4 if you're really excited about it, and then you really want this too.
I think
and
the
you want
price
to buy
point's
it
high.
in black and red so it matches your PS4.
I want the
think the
form
price point's
factor.
high.
I want that retro look. Like I'm dying to find a VIC 20. I
Yeah,
really
sure.
want a VIC 20. I don't care what I'm going to use it for.
Right.
And you're going to pay out the wazoo to get one at this point. It's going to be on eBay or something.
Well, you just got to get the shell. You can find it.
Yeah, but
brick
rare.
one.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. And stick like a SBC in it.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that idea. But here's one that comes already, like it's a computer. If I can install Linux on it, that's great.
Well, exactly,
And
yeah.
that means to me, I'm buying a computer for that. And it's got this sexy retro form factor of an Atari VCS.
There's definitely a big market for this.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
got
sure.
my interest for sure.
I
so
It is
2 for 3.
expensive.
It's 2 for 3.
If they said $150, I'd be all over it.
Right. I do understand that it
I'll
is
let you borrow
expensive,
mine for 150
but
bucks.
it's an investment.
In
your
happiness.
past?
In happiness, Jeff. Come on.
Happiness. We have long winters. We've discussed this. The United States Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, has gone public with a warning to Microsoft Windows users regarding a critical security vulnerability. By issuing the Update Now warning, CISA has joined the likes of Microsoft itself and the NSA in warning Windows users of the dangers from the Blue Keep vulnerability. This latest warning comes hot on the heels of a statement from Yaniv Balmas, the global head of cyber research at security vendor Checkpoint. He says, quote, "It's now a race against the clock by cyber criminals, which makes this vulnerability a ticking cyber bomb," end quote. Balmas also predicted that it will only be a matter of weeks before attackers started exploiting Blue Keep. The CISA alert appears to confirm this, stating that it has, quote, coordinated with external stakeholders and determined that Windows 2000 is vulnerable to Bluekeep, end quote. That it can confirm a remote code execution on Windows 2000 might not sound too frightening. This is an old operating system after all. It would be unwise to classify this as an exercise in fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Until now, the exploits that have been developed, at least those seen in operation, did nothing more than crash the computer. Achieving remote code execution brings the specter of the Bluekeep worm into view as it brings the control of infected machines to the attacker. Just under 1 million internet-facing machines are vulnerable to Bluekeep on port 3389, used by the Microsoft Remote Desktop feature. But that's just the tip of this insecurity iceberg. These are 1 million gateways to potentially many millions more machines that sit on the internal networks that they lead to. A wormable exploit can move laterally within that network, rapidly spreading to anything and everything it can infect in order to replicate and spread. Here's the real stinger, that it can include machines in an Active Directory domain even if there's no Bluekeep vulnerability to exploit. The machine running the vulnerable remote desktop protocol is merely the gateway. Once compromised, we could see an outbreak as widespread as WannaCry from back in 2017. The NSA urged Microsoft Windows administrators and users to ensure that they are using a patched and updated system in the face of the growing threat. Microsoft itself has twice now published warnings about Bluekeep, including one that was reported as begging users to update their Windows installations.
This is another case of that old computer that we have running in the back room that nobody really uses anymore, so it's not a concern. And that is a very big concern.
Right.
I almost, like, as you're going through the news story, I'm thinking, okay, what do we say about this? Because, like, oh, it's another one again. But I'm starting to wonder, is there not a way for, like, router developers and network companies to develop kind of an internal firewall system that blocks between computers, so that if one computer gets infected, that it can't automatically spread to other computers. That would kind of bring this to a slower development, I would think, so that you can catch stuff before it just kind of goes nuts.
It's called EDR, Jeff.
Okay.
And yeah, it exists.
Okay. I guess just because I use the home router, I've never really paid attention to it.
Yeah, I'm thinking my thoughts. How do you... People got to pay for it. People have to pay for security, okay?
But if you have, like, thousands of computers on a massive, like, business network, you're going to want to pay.
You would think that. But then you hear about cities...
Fair enough.
Don't.
Right? And speaking of cities, not to point any fingers or anything like that, but we heard about how cities are pointing the finger at the NSA and saying, okay, well, this ransomware got in through Eternal Blue. Eternal Blue being the one that was exploited by WannaCry, the NSA exploit, back in 2017. So now, isn't it interesting that the NSA is involved in unveiling and warning people about this exploit?
Right.
Oh, here's another one just like that one.
Right.
Let's make sure you get patched so that in hindsight, retroactively, somebody can't come and say it was your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So this could be, like, potentially devastating.
Yes.
So is there a way that they could just go in and brick the systems that don't, like, say, patch now, or we're bricking your system?
Nah.
They can't.
Nah.
Because they're really good at
Not
bricking things
realistically.
during updates.
That would cause problems.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I just feel like if it's the neglect of, like, maintaining your system that's going to cause this massive problem for everybody, including the people who are taking care, then
here's the thing. So I'm looking at ESET Enterprise Inspector. So minimum number of computers is 250 computers, and the cost is going to be about $10,000 for the year.
Yeah, but if you've
in
got
Canadian
250
dollars.
Computers, that's
Right. We're looking at $39 per device. So, but that's Canadian.
Yep.
So that's about $40 American. But so keep that in mind. So it's expensive to protect oneself. What an enterprise inspector or an EDR solution does is it monitors the traffic. It monitors the things that are happening on the network so that it can proactively block certain types of activity. So here's the problem. You have that old Windows 2000 system that's susceptible to this exploit, and it gets compromised. Now, as your story said, but just to kind of, I almost dumb it down a little bit, but now that they've gained access to that, that becomes an entry point for everything else that they want to do. And because it's on the LAN, it's a trusted device, typically, right? So my computer has access to everything on my network because it's my computer and I want access to everything on my network.
Yeah.
So if some hacker compromises my computer, now they have access to everything on my network. And you don't even know all the things that you have on your network. I see like $C being shared on Windows Samba within an internal network. So your whole hard drive is just wide open to anyone on the LAN, right? Like ransomware, have fun,
This is
right? So yeah, it's pretty bad. So it really just comes down to the money piece. Can we spend the money to keep ourselves protected?
Can you afford to not be protected?
That's a great point, Sasha. Jeff, like what if a small company, so look at someone smaller, 30 computers, right? How would something like that impact a business that has 30 computers? So presumably 30 staff members, and think about their bottom line, and okay, you're shut down, your entire network is gone, all of your customer data stolen.
That could kill a business.
You would probably, if the actual event doesn't destroy your business and cause you to go bankrupt, the lawsuits from your customers, that will.
Yeah.
You're done. So what's $10,000 in light of that, right?
Right.
Like we really have to look at it in that perspective. So
Back to the Stone Age.
yeah.
Facebook has finally revealed the details of its cryptocurrency Libra, which will let you buy things or send money to people with nearly zero fees. You'll be able to buy or cash out your Libra online or at a local exchange point like grocery stores and spend it using third-party wallet apps or Facebook's own Calibra wallet that can be built into WhatsApp, Messenger, and the Facebook app. Facebook won't fully control Libra, but instead just get a single vote in its governance like any other founding members of the Libra Association, including Visa, Uber, and venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. Each have invested at least $10 million into the project's operations. The association will promote the open source Libra blockchain and developer platform with its own Move programming language, plus sign up businesses to accept Libra for payment and even give customers discounts or rewards. Facebook is launching a subsidiary company also called Calibra that handles its crypto dealings and protects users' privacy by never mingling your Libra payments with your Facebook data, so it can't be used for ad targeting. Your real identity won't be tied to your publicly visible transactions, but Facebook, Calibra, and other founding members of the Libra Association will earn interest on the money users cash in that is held in reserve to keep the value of Libra stable. Facebook wants to make Libra the evolution of PayPal. It's hoping Libra will become simpler to set up, more ubiquitous as a payment method, more efficient with fewer fees, more accessible to the unbanked, more flexible thanks to developers, and more long-lasting through decentralization. Facebook writes in its Libra documentation, quote, "Success will mean that a person working abroad has a fast and simple way to send money to family back home, and a college student can pay their rent as easily as they can buy a coffee," end quote.
Facebook has the power to make this happen.
Yes.
Facebook has the power to reverse the damage that's been done to the cryptocurrency market in the eyes of the layperson by hackers, by ransomware and things like that, because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency becomes the hacker's currency. So now Facebook doing Libra, all of a sudden it's something accessible to consumers. Maybe we'll get some confidence in the blockchain.
But do we still have confidence in Facebook?
Well, it's an association, though.
Yeah.
So Visa's involved, as you mentioned, Uber, and some heavy investors. And Facebook is, at the technology forefront of it. And maybe they'll be able to utilize this technology to move some of their assets off of the centralized model and into decentralization, which is really could be groundbreaking in and of itself. But also they're mentioning that they're hoping to achieve a stable cryptocurrency, which is really interesting. What would that mean to the cryptocurrency market? Because here's the problem with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies of today. I don't feel confident to buy it as anything other than a hopeful investment that it will go up in value. If I were to buy something with my cryptocurrency, my Bitcoin, and all of a sudden it goes from $1,000 to $20,000, now I just paid $2 million for my car, right? Like, so there's so much fear in using the currency. If I accept it as a payment and it goes from $20,000 to $1,000, I just lost everything and could go bankrupt because of that. So if they're able to stabilize the cryptocurrency, now all of a sudden it is something that's viable for transactions, where businesses will be interested in using it for purchasing and selling.
Right. I wonder, if it's partnered with Visa, I'm assuming you'll have a card, and I'm wondering if the card will look like
it will act like a bank.
It's wow.
It's an interesting comment. The next evolution of PayPal. Well, we're already used to electronic currency, so cryptocurrency seems so foreign and so scary, but we're already used to PayPal. I don't have that money. It's in their website. And up until a couple years back, there was a MasterCard that was connected to your account. Now, they cut that off for Canada, which sucks. PayPal sucks in Canada. It's terrible. Yeah. It's so much so that I have switched our accounts over to Payoneer, and they are sending me a MasterCard. Fantastic, right? And Payoneer, by the way, I'm very impressed with so far. So if you're interested in them, ask me, because they have a referral program where both of us will get a bonus, $25 if you sign up through me. So, so who knows? I think that it could change cryptocurrency.
Right. I took a step back from Facebook, as we all know.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want to
Facebook,
lean back I know, but I don't. But I feel like if you can only access it through those, I wouldn't mind knowing that there would be a separate standalone, not through WhatsApp, not through Facebook, not through Messenger. Right?
There are, yes. Third-party apps.
Right.
They have open source developer base that other people can develop applications using their blockchain.
Right.
So it's all there. It's just that the companies, the association, has the control over the currency, which I believe means that they control the generation of the coins. It must mean that. They must have, just like our government controls the flow of money into the economy, like cash monies. They must be controlling the flow of cryptocurrency in order to keep it as a stable market. There's how else would they do it, right?
Okay, so that brings me to my concern.
Make it quick. I've got to get onto the cryptocurrency report.
Okay. They want to stabilize it. There's all these multinational companies that are shareholders in it. All it takes is a quick decision of, hey, you know what, let's drop the value of it.
Yeah, your government can do that.
No, I understand that, but there's more at play within the stock market, because this is not within the stock market. You're throwing a whole nother element of having corporate control over a currency-based system that potentially has global implications. And if they decide to go belly up or cause any issues, the whole economy that's built upon it goes and drops too. So to say they've decentralized it is only half true. It may be decentralized, but it's still conglomerately owned, so that there is the risk of it going belly up. Say Visa goes bankrupt.
It can't go belly up. It's decentralized. It's not possible.
But
What
they
can
own it.
change is the value of the currency.
But that's what I'm talking about. All they have to do is go, oh, we've made a bad business decision, and the value goes, kshing, and it just drops out. Like, there's so many issues with this, and the fact that it's Facebook, I instantly go, I'm not going to touch it, and especially when they go, oh, we're going to protect your data. Yeah. Okay.
We have to see where the value in Libra comes from. How is the value created? Bitcoin, it's through it's the mining process, and how many coins are there? That's where the value comes from.
I am looking forward to it being added to your crypto report.
It's already there, Sasha.
Is it?
It is at a value of $0 today, because it doesn't exist yet.
Yay.
Bitcoin, however, is up. And this is, again, talking about that stability of the market. Bitcoin has gained $1,056 in the past week. So it's up to $9,161.74 US. Litecoin is at 138.72 US, also gaining. Everything's gained this week, other than Facebook Libra. Excuse me. That's the first time that's ever happened live, which is amazing. In 12 years, I've never sneezed on air.
Welcome to
Yes,
allergies.
Thank you. Litecoin, again, 138.72. Ethereum is at 268.09. Monero is at 99.80, gaining $10 and a little bit more. Torque is at 0.95 ten-thousandths of a cent, and Turtlecoin at at 1.36 ten-thousandths of a cent, gaining 0.39. Do remember, if you're going to invest or play around with the cryptocurrency market, it never closes and is always volatile.
Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category 5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category 5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Rickman.
And I'm Robbie Ferguson.
And I'm Jeff Weston. Welcome back to Category 5 Technology TV. Exciting things on the horizon, like...
Well, now I'm really under pressure. I wanted to talk about what happens when a centralized service goes down.
Exciting things like what happens when a centralized service goes down. Robbie, take it away.
This week and this month has been ridiculous. Google
I know.
has gone down twice.
Okay,
Think about that.
This
for a
is
second.
why
about
this
both.
scares me.
I've heard about it going down twice now. I have yet to have experienced it.
Right.
I experience it when the phones ring, Jeff. So here's the issue.
Oh, right. Right, okay.
Yeah,
Good job.
because I'm in IT.
Yeah.
So the phone starts ringing because customers have not by our own recommendation, but have started moving services. A lot of people are using like G Suite for email, right? You know, using Gmail for your business email. So
Right.
and as a matter of fact, I use Gmail for Category 5 TV. So any email goes through Gmail. Well, if Gmail goes down, I lose access to my email. But here's what happened this week. Google Calendar went down.
Right.
Now, we have a situation now where businesses and lots of businesses
Use Google Calendar.
they use Google Calendar, and what does it mean when they have no access to any of their appointments?
Missed meetings.
Who knows, right? Lost revenue,
Right.
missed
I mean,
stuff.
I know I'm just a small person in the whole situation,
We're
but
not talking about your height here,
but
Sasha.
I use my Google Calendar for my work shifts, and then on each work
that's
shift
it.
I track my kilometers. Well, I just added into my notes on my Google Calendar so that later when I'm going to log my kilometers, I just go in, I drove 50 kilometers that day. This many
Okay.
right?
Well, that's important. Right, mileage.
So,
yeah.
I use Google Calendar for life organization.
Sure.
I have my reminders set up through there, my tasks, everything. If Google Calendar went down,
Which it did.
which it did,
Yeah.
but somehow it didn't affect me, which I'm confused by. But if it went down for any amount of time, I don't know what I'd do because I trust it to stay there and be
exactly so. And you think about Google as a decentralized business. You think of it as a cloud-based service that will never go down. Well, we've seen this month that it happened twice, and Google Calendar going down, man, like that's devastating to a business. If I didn't have access to my calendar, I would be lost. Like my calendar is like a list. This is my list for the day.
Right.
And it would be nuts if I didn't know what was going on or who I was supposed to call at what time, what service calls I was doing, what remote accessing I was supposed to be doing at whatever time. And it could be potentially devastating to my business as well. So a little tip for you if you found yourself affected by that, and maybe this is how you got around it. If you use the app, now with this particular service issue, the outage was in fact their web services. So through the browser. So if you were accessing it through the web browser, going to google.com and clicking on your calendar, right? If you had the app on your phone, then you would presumably have still been able to access it.
That's why.
That's exactly how that happened
it's on my
for
phone.
me.
Yeah, there you go. So if that ever happened again and it was brutally affecting your day, you could hopefully, if it was the same issue, not that it will ever happen again, but if you use the app, you should be able to access it because it's different ports, different service. But that was the workaround this time around. But because it happened and nobody was ready for it, and Google was they still haven't told us what happened.
Right.
They're not being transparent.
The wrong switch.
Yeah, somebody tripped over the cable in the server.
Somebody hit the
A
reset
crack in the foundation of my confidence with it. Like now I'm just
Sure.
like a little
See,
hesitant.
I can deal with service outage. I can't deal with data breach. So service
Sure.
outage, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
Like,
But
Nothing is gonna be up 100% of the time.
that is just reveals to us that even if we're working with such a huge company as Google, there is the potential to go down. So we need to be prepared for it. It's not about printing your calendar every day, but maybe synchronizing your iCal file, or again your backups. I have talked about Google Drive offline. Well, if Google Drive ever went down, at least I'd be able to access my most recent stuff on my laptop because I have Drive offline, and which is another reason it's important for me to get Chrome working on the Pinebook, because I want to have that offline. So all these considerations, it's like, wow, even though I always have access to it, what if it went down? What if it was actually down? And it doesn't ever happen. It happened twice this month. So
Scary stuff.
Yeah, well, could be. But that's all the time that we have for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for everyone who has pitched in this week, be it through Patreon or through shopping with any of our partners. We greatly appreciate and basically we're able to do this because of your contributions. That's how we're able to pay the rent and all the bills that we have here. As you can imagine, they can be fairly high, and so if you supported us this week, I appreciate that very, very much, and I thank you. We are on Twitter at Category 5 TV. You can also follow me personally at Robbie Ferguson. We're on YouTube, as you can imagine, Category 5 Technology TV, or head on over to linuxtechshow.com. Sorry, or you need to kick me every time I say or.
That's true.
You need to subscribe to both Category 5 Technology TV and Linux Tech Show, because with that subscription, it's the Category 5 Technology TV that's going to ding you when we are live, and it's the other one, Linux Tech Show, that's going to ding you when we post little videos. So you want to subscribe to both of those. We're also on Roku's channel store, so you can install us through that. You can get us on Plex or Kodi through our GitHub, which is Cat5TV. And our main website ties everything together. We've got our RSS feeds and access on Google Podcasts and everything else. That is category5.tv. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great week.
yeah.